Okay, so I do see we do have quite a few committee members and a few members, just, general party members. And the purpose of these meetings, we, allot a couple hours, but that's generally if there's a ton more people, but we'll stay, at least those of us who can, as long as you guys have any questions. But we're here to hear any input that members may have. The committee members that are here, I'm the platform committee chair for this term, and we also have Mark Brayman, Matt Choco, Clayton, I'm panicking again. Kishado, got it, Curry Taylor, Joseph Brungart, Joshua McHose, and Omar Rakiro. So if any of the members that are here, it looks like it's Eric and James, from what I'm seeing from on my screen, you two get all of our attention tonight. So I hope you feel special, but it's really just to address any questions, concerns, or suggestions that you may have. So the floor is yours, not too much pressure.
Oh, I just saw the link on the Utah Libertarian Party page.
Mhm.
And so I thought I'd jump on just to listen. I wasn't really going to say anything.
Karen, Ms. Harlos, I had sat in on some of the earlier meetings. I thought this was a continuation of that because the previous meetings where you were going through the different flanks were very good, informative, interesting. And I thought this was a continuation of that in preparation for the convention in Reno.
Well, what we can do, because I see there are a few more members that came, which is nice. I see Michael Paco is here, David Davis is here. What I think we'll do is I will share my screen and show a markup copy of the proposals that the committee has passed so far, so that you guys could just take a look at where we're at. There will be a survey that is sent out to the members, I think right around the 15th, and that will go out to everybody. And the committee will start making its decisions at that point. We may revise some planks, but it will certainly inform the order in which we will present them at convention. So just one moment here, because unfortunately I'm on a laptop because my main computer is still not behaving properly. So just give me a moment and I will pull up the markup copy that we have so far. And for those of you who are interested in just our general meetings where we are going through proposals and doing the debate and things like that, I generally post links to those on my public figure page on Facebook. And also, if you aren't familiar with lpedia.org, which is the Libertarian Party's historical wiki, there is a page for the Platform Committee 2022, and the links to all of our meetings, future and past, like how to register for future meetings and how to view past meetings, are all there as well. So one sec, I'm still trying to find that markup copy. Okay, here we go. Get this on the screen.
Because it was those recurring platform meetings that I thought were very interesting, good, informative, everything else.
Yeah, we've been doing those on Thursday, and we're having another one Monday. We're starting to heat up a little because we're coming up on our deadline, and you know how it is with libertarians.
Yeah, because I had been getting those links for some reason, and then I stopped getting them. So I don't know.
Okay, yeah, we do try to get them mailed out, but I know with the National Party, they do have to ration their emails. Otherwise, you get marked as spam by certain providers. There's a whole science to how many emails you can send out. So sometimes they have to be quite parsimonious in what they can send out, and committees will sometimes, not be the highest priority. Well, I might think it's the most important thing in the world, fundraising and things like that come first. So I am going to share my screen here. And what you should see on your screen is a copy of the platform. and we will scroll through it, and I'll just briefly highlight, and any other committee member that wishes to say anything, this is so informal, just jump in. You know, there doesn't need to be any of that formal recognition stuff unless we start talking over each other. So let's just start scrolling through to
Quick
look at the.
question.
Yes,
Can anybody subscribe to the list?
yes. Anybody
Nobody
can subscribe to the list and get emails either in digest form. It's just like the LNC list.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
So maybe in chat, if you know how to get to the Google group, Omar, the main page for it, it's also, if people go to lp.org and go to the footer where it says subcommittees and look up the platform committee, there is a link to our email list. And if you click that link, you can subscribe to the email and you will get all of our discussions. I would suggest you hit digest unless you really like getting a lot of emails, because some days there can be 20 emails. But if you're like me and love getting all that kind of stuff, then by all means hit every email. Just fair warning that sometimes the list can be high traffic, but if you subscribe to the list, you will then get all of the notices and the agendas and more information probably than you wanted to have. Okay, so the first proposal, we're just going to go in order of the way the platform is numbered, not necessarily in the order we're going to present it or any other order of importance. The language that is in blue that is on your screen is language that the committee is proposing to add to the platform, which is adding a section on speech that says language that is perceived to be offensive to certain groups or individuals is not a cause for any legal action. Speech that is literally not a threat of aggression or violence is not in itself aggression or violence and can never be used to justify aggression or violence. Individuals are responsible for their own actions to speech. We're affectionately calling this, I think, the Will Smith proposal. Next, and again, any guest, please jump in if you have any questions or comments on any of these. This is just to keep you informed. On the next one was to expand our personal relationships plank to make it personal relationships and expression, and add the sentence, individuals have the sole authority to determine and express their own gender identities, and add a clarifying phrase later on. We are also proposing expanding our language on parental rights, adding language that says we support the separation of family and state. We encourage private arbitration and mediation of family issues such as marriage, cohabitation, adoption, custody disputes, divorce, annulment, and spousal as well as child
Aaron,
support.
you got somebody that needs to mute.
I'm sorry?
You got somebody that needs to mute.
If somebody is not speaking, if you could please mute.
I think it's coming from Michael Packel's line.
No, it was, let me see. Okay, did that, let me try to find it here. Okay, I think I got it. And we also added permanent separation of family members must be adjudicated by due process, not in administrative court. In crime and justice, we were suggesting adding, we support the abolition of qualified immunity so that law enforcement and prosecutors would be held accountable for misconduct that leads to wrongful convictions or other acts of injustice. We were proposing a new plank in section 1 entitled Space Exploration. We oppose all government restrictions on voluntary peaceful use of outer space. There is a proposal to move free trade and migration to section 1. And I know coming up, there was some discussion that this may need to be retitled, but as of right now, it maintains its current title. And also the word unreasonably was proposed to be stricken so that it would say that political freedom and escape from tyranny demand that individuals not be constrained by government rather than not be unreasonably constrained by government. a new plank.
So Ms. Harlow, the free
Madam Chair.
trade and migration,
Star Child, yes.
Oh, on plank 1.10, didn't we change that to peaceful activities in outer space, or was that only discussed? We didn't vote on it yet.
That was only discussed. I believe that is what was passed here. Mr. Ricuro can check the records, but I usually listen to all meetings and this is what was passed.
Ms. Harlow's plank
Yes.
1.x, the free trade and migration. There was quite a bit of discussion on that. Did we wind up only changing the one word? Is that what it indicates?
That is what we ended up with, I believe.
Because there was quite a bit of discussion there. It's just, okay.
You know what? Let me look at, oh, you know what? You are correct. Let me explain. We first moved it and we also made changes. Right now, those are two separate proposals. We may combine it into one. When we get down to 3.4, there will be the rest of the language changes.
Very good.
But let's make sure that's there. This is a good review. There is a proposal for an additional plank entitled, though I know some persons in the committee might be interested in revisiting the name, but this is the name as it is right now. Adult rights and responsibilities, that states once individuals are presumed to have adequate judgment to vote and serve on a jury, or in the military, they should also be presumed to have sufficient judgment to decide their own purchase and use of alcohol, tobacco, firearms, cannabis, and engage in other activities currently restricted by government due to age. Okay, so let's now move down here. Oh God, we're going to some older proposals. I almost forgot about these. Marketplace freedom, instead of specifying out corporations, cooperatives, and other types of entities, that was proposed to be struck and just say commercial enterprises, and the addition of a sentence that we call for separation of business and state. There were some changes to the healthcare plank, adding two sentences. One which says medical facilities, medical providers, and medical products, including drugs, must be freely available in the marketplace without government restrictions or licenses. And we oppose governments either mandating or restricting voluntary access to medical treatments or procedures, including vaccines. Proposal of a new plank entitled agorism. We affirm the right to subvert state controls through black and gray market activity, so long as such activity does not violate individual rights and liberties through theft, fraud, or violence. Okay, so now we're on to 3.0, and we'll double check that migration one. I think that's what happened here. There were quite a bit of changes here. I am not going to read through them all. I would ask perhaps if the secretary can provide a link to this markup copy in chat so that members have this to share amongst other members. This is not any kind of secret document whatsoever. We want members to see these changes and to give us input. And of course, they will all be included in the survey. But there's been quite a few changes here. In the first one, in securing liberty, it was a rewording, not necessarily the addition of new concepts, but there was new wording to national defense. First of all, we struck the idea of a sufficient military and just left it as military, and added language, we support military veterans by calling for federal policy to not make more of them through undeclared wars or foreign aggressions, invasion, deployment, or occupation. We call for the government to honor any contractual commitments it makes for their medical care. Now, in the elephant that's been in the room earlier, you could see that there was an addition to mandating vaccines. This subject is dealt with again here in 3.2. With the striking of some language that the committee kind of condensed down into something a little bit more concise. but also broader while being more concise, oddly enough. It says the individual rights shall not be curtailed, whether based on circumstances of war, epidemic, natural disaster, emergency, or any other pretense. And this was, at least in part, specifically to deal with some of the situations we have dealt with over the past couple of years. Here in international affairs, just some rewording. I don't believe there's a massive meaning change, but there was some cleanup to the language. You want to know what? I do not see that about migration. I am going to need to research with the secretary if more extensive changes were made to the freedom of movement and migration. Now that that question was asked, because I know we did talk about that with the issue of human capital. So Mr. Secretary and I will go back through the voting record to make sure that we have all of that captured, because there might be something that might be missing from this document. So I will take a look at that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Now on 3.7, there are, which can be considered two competing proposals that the committee is going to need to make a decision on how it's going to handle, having to do with self-determination. The last one that we had considered had dealt with the issue of the right to political self-determination, including secession. And there were a couple sentences proposed to be added to the omissions plank. The first one being, in every matter, we advocate the consistent application of the principle of the non-initiation of coercion, physical force or fraud, and we take no position on whether anarchy or limited government or may ultimately prove the best safeguard of freedom. There is something I want to check.
Ms. Harlos, in 3.7.
Yes.
I recall some of that discussion also was that, like, did we leave one session with two competing statements? Is that where that landed? Is that why there's two of them?
Yes. The first one was a reconsideration. Reconsideration is probably not the right word, is when we took a look at proposals that never got heard in 2020. And that is what that first one is. And then at a later meeting, the idea of secession had come up, and we revisited 3.7 without touching what we had already passed. So the committee. Yes.
I was just gonna say, I think we were discussing having a new separate plank in secession, and we ended up deciding to move some of the language into this plank, and that's why we ended up with two here, I think, maybe.
Yes, but we do have two competing proposals right now, and the committee is going to need to make a decision as to how they wish to handle these two. They were passed at two different sessions, and that is on an upcoming agenda as to how the committee wishes to handle it.
When is our next meeting, for the record, if you were the secretary, I have that information handy?
It is Monday.
Okay, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Yes, 9 p.m. Eastern. I try to keep everything in Eastern, but yes, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then Wednesday and Thursday, we're meeting 3 times next week in order to get everything heard that we possibly can before a survey goes out. I want to stop my share one moment, because one thing I do want to check on that migration one is concerning me on some missing language, though we will figure it out. I want to see if perhaps I just didn't put it in this master sheet, and I might have it on our little individual.
Yeah, you're there right now, and I was gonna say that I think that's where it is. I didn't realize we had so many. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to-
let me share this. Here is the language. I just didn't put it into that master proposal. I missed that. Let me share this so that everyone can see it. I will add it to the working copy as soon as this meeting ends. Let me find where I put this. Right here. Yes, here is the language. For some reason, I just did not put it in the markup copy. So it was to remove the word trade and migration, and that would make it fit better into section 1, where it would it says we now because these
Personal
were,
freedoms rather than economic freedoms.
I'm sorry.
Oh, personal
Yes.
freedoms rather than economic freedoms.
Yes. And it was combined with a change to marketplace freedom, which moved that last sentence about economic freedom into marketplace freedom. A question had a,
That's good, because that was one of the issues that we kept going round and round on.
right.
So how does that look now? Do we address migration fully in one item and trade in a separate item? Is that how it is now?
Correct. And now I'm remembering the discussion, it had come up in the committee since when we addressed free migration again, that the word, if you notice on the screen, unreasonably is still in here. And it was mentioned, and I will now add this to the agenda, that the committee needs to make a decision and I think we might have decided to wait until after the survey as to whether it wished to include striking unreasonably in this entire proposal or do it as a separate proposal.
Yes, because we had talked at necessary length about the word unreasonably and how that was inherently subject to different people's judgment.
Right.
So,
And I believe we were going to see how the reaction was in the survey and decide whether or not we were going to combine the two proposals or deal with unreasonably separately. So as not to, it seemed like that was one of the more emotionally charged, and in the past has been one of the more emotionally charged portions of this plank. And some of this other language people felt was so important that we will need to make a decision as to whether we will want to present them as two separate proposals or combine them. And that's always a tactical decision because sometimes including something that's a little bit more emotional and something that's less can tank a whole proposal. And
my recollection is in fact that the word unreasonably was struck and then reinserted and struck, and so right now it's showing it as being unchanged.
well, it was struck, but when we reconsidered, when we made more changes, we left it in because we struck it in an earlier proposal. And it was said that we would decide after the survey what we were going to do with that, whether we were going to combine the two or not.
But there's none of them here show it as being struck. None of these three on the screen, or I'm sorry, the one of his current wording, but I kind
Right.
of thought we had deleted that also.
Yeah, that was my point, is the font implies that these items were discussed, either added or deleted, and the word unreasonably is not highlighted in any way by a font, so it's.
No. Here's where things get confusing. When we are dealing with platform planks, we have to deal with the language as it exists now, not earlier changes that we made, because those changes have not yet been accepted by the delegates. So when we were looking at this plank, we have to look at it as it now exists, which is with the word unreasonably in it. We do have a separate proposal to strike unreasonably. We can combine that proposal with this one so that it's just one proposal, and this would include striking unreasonably, or we can present them as separate proposals. But the fact that it's included here doesn't mean we re-added it back in. It is just us dealing with the language as it exists in the platform right now.
But shouldn't there be a proposed amendment listed showing that?
There is, I showed it on the screen a few moments ago.
Oh, okay.
And that is when it was brought to my attention that there were additional changes made to this plank that were proposed that hadn't yet been incorporated by my mistake into that markup copy.
Yes, that's right. That's where we started, was the summary. That
Exactly.
the only thing it showed was the fact that the word unreasonably had been deleted.
Correct, because that was included in the proposal of the move. So we have multiple moving parts here with this plank. One is moving it, one is striking unreasonably, and another is these other changes. And the committee's going to have to decide how to handle that, whether all in one proposal and 3 separate proposals and 2 separate proposals. And a lot of those decisions can be made based upon member feedback after the survey. But it unreasonably being included here is only reflecting the reality of the current wording of the plank. It is not us adding it back in or revoking the prior proposal. Just to make that clear. If all of our proposals were to pass, unreasonably would not be in here. It's just handled separately. I hope that cleared things up.
Yeah, just so there will, when it comes up, we'll be considering combining them.
Yes.
It's almost like in one of the other amendments line items, I think it might have been 3.7, where there were competing proposals. So if here it showed that there were like competing proposals that needed to be reconciled.
Correct, or combined. 3.7 is genuinely a competing proposal. This one I don't believe is competing. It's just one that we broke out into separate parts that we can decide to combine. The same thing with 4.0. Those 2 sentences we added to omissions were added at separate times. And we will need to make a decision whether we want to combine those into one motion or propose them separately. And that's a decision the committee will need to make. And it's a tactical decision. Okay, do any members have any questions on what the committee has worked on so far, or anything that you would like us to consider in our upcoming 3 meetings? And I am so grateful, by the way, whoever pointed out that I missed that 3.4, because that would have been bad to miss that in the survey. So thank you for your eagle eyes. Don't be shy. I know libertarians aren't shy, and I know libertarians have opinions about the platform. but if everything we do is just so wonderful and acceptable, we will be thrilled with that as well.
I was curious where, sorry, I had my camera all flipped around.
That's okay.
Where we could like look at the platform and like read through it.
The changes or the platform as it currently exists?
Both.
Current
Okay.
platform is lp.org/platform.
And
Okay.
yeah, and the working copy that we were just looking at is in chat.
Uh-huh.
And it's a Google Doc where you could take a look at it. And I will be editing it right after this meeting to add that 3.4 language in that I had somehow missed.
Can people get to that doc from our committee page or from somewhere else on the lp.org site currently? Do you know?
It's not currently on the lp.org site, but it is on the Lpedia committee page. And a link to it is also included at the top of every single agenda.
Awesome. Thank you.
Starchild, you were not at the last meeting. The committee updates were made by the headquarters staff with one exception. They did not link to the LPDA page. I happen to know right now they are burning the candle at both ends. There is a link to our email group, however, and so any member that links to that will get all the information that they need. I think them listing the phone numbers of the people who agreed and updating all of the names is what we're going to get at this point. I know right now our staff is overworked beyond belief.
Well, that's an important change, and I'm glad they're making some progress on it. That's good.
Yes. So, and I do try to include all of the pertinent links to our timelines and all of that at the top of every agenda so that people have one document that they can kind of link to all the moving parts. But members can expect a survey. Well, it's in less than a week now. For those of you who are following the list, National did grant my request to subscribe for at least 1 month to SurveyMonkey to do the survey. They wanted me to use Google Forms, which is just wholly inadequate for the level of detail we like to get to, of all the questions we like to ask about the platform survey. So we will have SurveyMonkey. And the other bonus to that is I have all the forms from all the past platform surveys that the platform surveys take about 10 to 15 hours to write on the committee chair's part. And for me to reinvent the wheel would have just made me cry. So I'm really glad that I can work off of the 2021 and don't have to completely reinvent the wheel. It's still going to take me a good 10 hours to create this survey. But
Be happy to help with that. I'd like to see the language definitely before it goes out anyway, because in the past there's been issues with that. I want to make sure we, tell people that their answers will be public unless they specifically want to keep them private, so that everybody has access to the feedback and opinions we get from the membership.
The login this evening was a little bit different than it's been in the past. I just had to click a button that said continue and it was like, okay.
okay.
In the previous sessions that I've attended, there was like more information to be entered, which was fine. And it included the cell phone number that you mentioned. That's what triggered my memory, is when you mentioned.
Okay.
And I didn't see that this time, just by way of information.
I think that might be a Zoom thing. Zoom is constantly changing its interface. Star Child, Monday's meeting, I hope you can come to. I will, and if I don't amend the agenda accordingly, remind me at the beginning of the meeting to ask for a committee decision on what you had just brought up about public responses. I don't believe that is something that I, as chair, can unilaterally decide. I believe that has to be a committee decision.
Yeah, it should be. I agree. I just don't want to see it happen the wrong way by default, especially if you may be copying old templates to, create the survey. It'd be easy to inadvertently copy bad language or omission of language to notify people.
Well, bring that up Monday, or actually any meeting before the survey goes out, because the default, I know the default in the past has been that people's responses are private. If the committee does not make a decision otherwise, that is how the survey will go out, but the committee can certainly make a decision otherwise. So I'm highly, highly encouraging you to make sure, and I will move that up because it is so time sensitive in the agenda. So just please be at either Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday's meeting to make sure that gets heard by the committee.
Would private mean that only the committee members could look at it, or what would that mean?
I believe, and Star Child, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe what Star Child means is names will be attributed to the commentary and the responses.
Yeah, and that would be public. And
that
I do
would
think
be
that's how
public.
it's supposed to be by default, but a lot of times it hasn't happened.
Otherwise, all of the commentary and survey responses, however, without names attached to them, will be public. That my survey template already says that, but what Star Child is suggesting is that the names of the persons shall be as well.
Okay, thanks.
All right, if are there any other feedback or comments or
Just
questions?
names and contact info on that too. That's important because people want to, questions or feedback or whatever. Sometimes it might not be clear what somebody means in a particular answer, especially if it's like a free form written comment, for example.
Well, we will always have that. So if we have questions, we're able to reach out to people.
Okay. I just think it should
but-
all be public unless, perhaps if somebody specifically says, I don't want mine public, then we could say, have a note there saying this person declined to make this information public or something. But by default, I think it really should be for the good of the party as a whole and transparency and everything.
And I do need to take a look at the limitations of the SurveyMonkey software as well, but I believe the SurveyMonkey software allows us to do that. All right, does anyone else have anything that they wish to add? Okay, well, seeing none,
Aaron?
I'm sorry, was
Hey.
someone?
Yeah, it's Omar.
Oh, okay, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everyone. I've, for the most part, there has been, well, I've posted a lot of ideas, a few ideas, and I've gotten some good constructive criticism back on them. And then we're, two of them are going to go forward on an agenda. I might shoot out one more idea over the weekend, but Mr. Brayman, had something, and then Mr. Dempsey put something out there today. Whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, keep putting stuff out on the list so that we can sort of, workshop stuff, because we're really in that final stretch. And so if you hear all the detail that's coming out of Karen's mouth, all that stuff has to be taken into account. So let's, I think we're doing good work lately on the list. So just keep, if you can, keep, if you have an idea, just throw it out there. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is nothing. The best thing that can happen is the platform gets better. So that's all I have.
And I'm encouraging you guys, and you could do this either on the list or, if there's people who are of similar mind, if there are going to be minority reports, and I'm not saying there has to be, our report will be a lot simpler for me to present if there's no minority reports, but it is the committee's right to have minority reports. If you want those included in the survey, you have to have them to me by the end of Thursday's meeting, fully sponsored, with the requisite number of people to sign off on a minority report. As committee chair, it's not my place or job to coordinate, do anything with that. That work is entirely upon the minority to take care of. I like having minority reports if they're going to exist in the survey, because it is not unheard of for survey results to come back overwhelmingly in favor of the minority report and the committee changing its mind. It doesn't happen often, but it's not unheard of. And I want us to have as much data as possible from the membership, because it is so easy for those of us in these committees to be in an echo chamber. And the quickest way to get out of the echo chamber is to hear from the membership. Star Child, we do have the link for Monday's meeting. I posted it earlier today on the list. I believe it's entitled Notice of Meeting. The draft agenda is there. I'll do a version 2 of it. Hopefully I won't forget to add your question about the public responses. But yes, it is up there. And the web link is always on Elpedia as well.
So in the first link that was posted, when I open it, it's almost, because I've been in on some of these other discussions and I enjoy it, and it's informative and it's very good discussions and everything else. But for some reason, I didn't get the meeting notices recently. So when I go to this link, it's almost like an email list, and I see the meeting on the 11th. I thought I heard that there was a place to click something and sign up to get recurring notices, but I'm not finding that.
On that link to the list, I believe up at the top, you can subscribe to it. And it will send emails to, will send the committee emails to your inbox that you could select either in digest form or individual email form, like you can do for the LNC discussions as well.
And that's what I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing that subscribe. All I'm seeing is like an email list, like it's someone else's email list.
Because I'm the administrator of it, I don't see it as the public sees it. But I know there is a way to subscribe to it. I don't, the other link I can give you, that again, I might just have to say to check that list if this is a subject you're interested in, you know, maybe every couple days, because I'm the owner of the list, it's not showing me how you would see it. I'm gonna stick another link in the chat.
For the meeting Monday, because I can't find that email. I don't know if you know when you sent it or what the title was.
Title was notice of meeting.
Karen, on the thing here, from my perspective, on the left-hand side of the panel, it says Platform Committee 2022, conversations, members about my membership settings. When you hit my membership settings, there's where an option comes up for subscription.
Okay,
But it might be
Oh, and
based off
that's
having a
interesting,
Gmail.
because when I look at it, I have Platform Committee 2022 conversations about, what was the next thing you mentioned? Because that's not what I'm seeing.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Maybe you have to go to about. Let's see.
Oh, do you have to click about? Let me try that. No.
Star Child, I sent that email 7 hours ago on the list, and I just double checked. It's sent.
Yeah, it's today's date at 1:15 PM. I can see that in this email list, but what I don't see is the third item in the list that someone just mentioned. I see conversations about, and then what was the other thing I'm supposed to be looking for?
Subscription settings or my settings.
Yeah, but I guess that might be because I can post the list. I guess maybe that's not public. Let me see.
I know you can subscribe to it, but I don't know what it looks like as a non-administrator.
Yeah.
But that other link I put into chat is Elpedia, and there is a list of all of our upcoming meetings with the registration links, with the exception of the ones for May, which we haven't decided yet, which say TBD. But the rest of the ones that we have set so far, like 3 or 4 out, along with recordings of past ones, the minutes that have been approved, those and links to the markup copy, the secretary's notes, all of our ballots, those are all on that Elpedia page.
Yeah, in the link that you just sent, I see meetings out through April 14th, for example, it has links. The
Yes.
ones in May don't have links, but the ones in April do.
Yeah, the ones in May are kind of my wish list. They haven't been passed by the committee yet. We'll be dealing with that soon. But we have past meeting dates up through the 14th. And after the 14th is when I'm sending the survey out. Most of the meetings in May are going to be more on prioritizing and maybe making some tweaks depending upon what the survey results tell us.
Could I get the direct link? The one in there again is just a link to register. And when I register, it doesn't send me a confirmation email because I don't give my email address to Zoom.
There
So
isn't a direct link. I set it up as a registration and I will register for you as I have been doing.
Okay, I think the last time you did send me the direct link at some point.
It was because I registered for you. Each time, that's what I do. And I'll do that again for Monday's meeting.
Okay, when should I, you're going to email me that when?
Yeah, hopefully tonight.
Okay.
All
Thanks.
right, is anyone else have anything here?
John Thompson was asking in chat if there were any public comments. I didn't get here right at the beginning myself, so I don't know.
You can have public comment now if you'd like, Mr. Thompson.
I think he's asking if there were any, but I don't know. Maybe he had something.
Yeah, I don't have any comments. I was just curious if there are members of the public here earlier before I was able to join.
Well, the whole meeting, this particular meeting is for the public. We've had some interaction, a little, some questions, more about logistics, about finding more about how to come to our regular meetings. There hasn't been very much discussion on the proposal itself as far as interaction, though we did go through on the screen what we have passed so far. And there is a link in chat where it says working copy, which shows a mostly complete markup copy. There's a few changes was brought to my attention that I need to make to the proposals that we have passed so far.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everyone, if there is no further comments, we will be off for the evening, and I thank you guys for coming out.
Well,
Thank you.
take
All
care.
right,
you
thank
very
you.
much.
You have an awesome night.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hey, bye-bye.
Thanks.
Adios.
Ciao.